Podcasts are a dime and a dozen nowadays. So how do you make them stand out? And how do you create a show that doesn't just attract listeners, but actual dream clients and buyers? Well, in this video, I'm going to reveal the secret strategy that I use at my content agency to help you transform your podcast into a client magnet. And make sure you stick around and watch the entire video because I'm going to be revealing the common mistakes I see so many coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs make with their podcast. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on into the video. So I guess my question is, okay, so it's very time consuming. How long have you been doing the podcast for?
I started in May, so it's not even a year.
Okay, so you're doing every second week, right? So 2 a month. And you have some guests, some solo. Like, what's the ratio? Is it 50-50 or more guests, more solo?
I think so far I've done maybe 6 interviews and the rest have been solo episodes. And the interviews I'm doing interviewing clients, past clients about their results. So it's for high achieving women leaders, the target group. So I'm also interviewing other women leaders on different topics related to, what I'm also helping my clients with.
Okay. So what was your goal of starting your podcast?
To spread knowledge on topics like sleep, stress, mindset, thoughts.
And this is what you sell, right?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Because I feel there's too little knowledge and people talking about these kind of topics.
So it sounds to me you're doing
but obviously also as a sales channel to be able to get clients from that. So I had another business coach. She helped me to set it up, and she earns shitloads from her podcast. Like she gets all of her clients from her podcast.
So there's a couple different ways you can run a podcast. People run podcasts, like you said, to build their brand, to sell their service. You can also use a podcast to prospect, right? So if you want a more direct kind of ROI on your podcast, is try to find ideal clients that you can interview, and you can set up the podcast, because a podcast is what? An interview. What is a sales call? Kind of like an interview. What's your business about? Oh, tell me about your business. There's a lot of similar questions that goes in a sales call and a podcast. So you can structure a podcast to be almost like a sales call. So that's one avenue, one direction you can go to try to get, and there's a lot of videos that I can share your way on like a more detailed breakdown. But that is one path. So it sounds to me if you added video and you actually start promoting the show, right? And because you're already doing the work, you're interviewing past clients so that you have success stories. That's great. So it just sounds like you're not pushing people toward the work that you're doing. So my question is, like, why do you think you haven't been pushing people towards the show?
So I think all of the solo episodes, I'm actually not recording myself doing those. So I don't even have a video of me talking when I do the solo episodes, because also I cut and I stop and I'd fiddle around and then I retake and all of this. So I don't even have any recordings. The interviews, yes, I record it. I put one so far on YouTube. I made some technical errors, so I think that's why, but I definitely have one that I want to put out, the latest one I did last week on YouTube. But yeah, I think it's maybe, I feel they're not really awesome, professional enough.
Maybe. I totally get that, right? So 100%, I've been in your shoes. I've had a podcast and posted 50 episodes and got very little people listening. So when you're starting a show, right, like I said, we have to really start up, like, what is our goal? For me, my goal has always been money. Like, that's why we start business, is we're trying to get more money. But there's deeper rooted reasons why I want that, right? But we want to get money. So we need to tailor the show around our goals. So if our goals is to generate clients and to build a business, that's why I said some people's podcasts you never heard of, but they're also making millions of dollars. And it doesn't matter, like, just because your audience is small doesn't mean you're not making good money. You can make incredible amounts of money with a small audience. There's 1,000,001 people doing it. So you need to first understand, what is the goal? If the goal is to make more money, get clients, you need to start filming them as video, because that is the dominating medium in today. Yes, people are blowing up on Twitter and LinkedIn through written posts, and those are great. But video, it's the closest thing to being in person. Other than smell, it's like, and touch, it's almost all the other senses, right? See, hear, and emotion. So you can feel those things with video. It's harder with written and audio, right? So just by adding video and actually promoting your show, promoting what you're already doing, I think you'd see some more success. And as you're interviewing past clients, those are case studies. Those are one of the greatest videos that you can create is a case study. Here, Dan Bolton, $1 million in profit. He's a client of mine and I made video for him. Isn't that a great success story? Wouldn't you guys have 10 times more trust that I have someone who's made $1 million through content that we've made? Yeah, right. And I'm sure like with your offer, if you have those successes, so you just need to promote it. You start adding video to it, and there's 1,000,001 platforms.
Even the solo episodes. So just filming me talking, doing.
Even more solo. So I maybe do one case study a month. I would do more solo because again, people are buying into you. So what's your program? And like, give me a 30-second rundown what your offer is.
Yeah, so I help high achieving women leaders to reduce stress, improve sleep, boost confidence, and advance their careers.
Okay.
It's very like holistic way.
And it's one-to-one, right?
It's one-to-one. Yeah.
Okay. If I'm one of your target audiences, which obviously I'm not, but if I'm working with you one-on-one, I need to get to know you. I need to build some trust with you alone. If I can't see you, then I'm imagining, like, you know what I'm saying? It's harder to build trust with someone I can't see. But if I see who you are, you have a very gentle spirit, you know, and you're talking through your own story, you can bring some emotion to it. I'm going to gain 10 times more trust than if I just listen, if I can see you. So you need to film, yes, your solo and film your recordings, and your interviews can also be prospects. So if there is someone who you think is an ideal client, think of that email. Hey, I want to work with you one-on-one to help you do X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, I want you on my show where I help people do X, Y, and Z. Would you be interested? Right? And you set up the show to be a prospecting call.
And would you record it through, like, what would you use?
I would use, so Riverside's great platform. There's another tool, it's a little bit more complex called Cinemaker. It's a less expensive tool, but it's a very robust tool for remote video podcasting, but it's a little bit more of a learning curve. So if you're more creative, like you like the creative side, I would look up Cinemaker. And to be, you know, transparent with you guys, I work with them. So that you might see my face across the website and the content there. It is a great platform, but I will caveat that it is a steep learning curve. But Riverside's great, very easy to use. Zoom, you know, although the quality is not that great, I want the barrier entry to be really easy for you guys. And so I don't want technology to be the reason why you don't do something. So I'd rather you do it rather than not do it. So Zoom, Riverside, or Cinemaker would be the platforms I use. Riverside would be number one in the sense of it's the same price as Zoom. So you're not losing, you know, if we're deciding Zoom or Riverside, it's the same price. And it's a great for remote interviews.
Can I ask one question on tech, just quickly, just because it's at the same point?
Sure.
Like, is there a minimum, like, you know, you say you don't want tech to be the barrier, but is there like a minimum standard that you would say, right? Like, get a mic, have a HD, you know, like, because you can get some shit quality Zoom stuff, right? But like, what is the base level, I would say?
The first purchase you should make is a mic, because if you have good video, but your audio is shit, it wrecks the viewer experience. People can forgive a shitty video because we're used to it. We're used to crappy Zoom, you know, and iPhone nowadays shoot 4K. These are great cameras that are already in your pocket, right? So audio first, lighting second, and only your camera is the last thing you would do. Like, I would invest in more systems and processes and software before I would invest in a camera, because you guys are not like filmmakers, right? You guys are coaches. If this was filmmakers or content creators, they want to know the best camera, what's the most expensive, cool. Like, I got so much stuff in my garage of stuff I don't use anymore from when I was like a videographer. It's crazy. It spent thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, mic is the number one thing you want to invest. There's amazing $100 mics, USB mics that work great. Richard, do you have a question?
Yeah, I think it partly got answered. It's in terms of people tell you have to be brief with any content. You've got to be brief. You've got to grab people because attention spans, you know, like a goldfish, and, you know, you've got to be really quick. And then on the other hand, you've got to be you've got to be authentic. And that takes more than just a few seconds sometimes. It's just that balancing. And I lean towards being me, and if that's longer and some people switch off, screw it, that's just what happens. But is there a way of reconciling them, or is it, you know?
Let me show you something here. Here is your client. Okay, here is their future, where they want to be. So in order to bridge the gap, I understand what you're saying. Should you be brief? Should you be like, you have to be authentic? There's a lot to do. So when we're thinking of content, okay, to bridge the gap between where your client is and where they want to go is content, right? We understand this, but there's different types of content we can create, and this will answer your question. So this is called the GAP framework, okay? And the GAP framework stands for, well, growth content, authority content, and personal content, guys. Okay. So when I'm thinking of content, these are the buckets. Think of these as buckets. Okay. Growth, okay, is like the tips, the lessons, the strategies, not even like, actually, I'm going to make this even easier. Actionable tips. If you just did actionable tips for your growth content, you'd be great. So actionable tips. This is the short, brief styles content. This is like, here are the 7 tips to develop a content strategy that'll help you build $1 million business. Tip number 1. So in that case, you're right. It's harder to be like, oh, here's my story, here's this. And the purpose of this framework, number 1, growth, is to grow how many people know you, right? So how do we if we take another step back, to build a brand and to build a business, people need to know, like, and trust us. So this type of content, growth, helps people get to know you. So you're right. This is where I make it more brief. Liking is personal content. Here's a story, right, about Dan Bolton, the client, our coach, Joel and I's coach. He posted a video, not about business, not about marketing, not about content, about chickens. Okay. He bought chickens and he's like, hey guys, I want to introduce a new member of the family. This is Jeffrey the chicken. I don't know his name. This is Jeffrey the chicken. I love chickens. That one post got him, I think, 4 or 5 clients that day. People message him, oh my God, I love chickens. I've always wanted to have a farm. Let's work together. Funny thing, the reason why I explain this story is people buy off of emotion and they buy from connection. And so the more that you share about your story and your life and your values, the better you are to connecting to people. So this is where this content is where you go more in depth. Growth is more brief, like you just said. This is where you go more in depth of who you are, your values, because that's who you're trying to connect with. People skip out on person. We're building a personal brand, but they forget the person. Our company is ourselves. So you need to bring personality and stories into your content, right? So that's what personal content. The authority content is what you think, right? Is the strategies, the process, but not what you think. Authority isn't just from me telling you, hey guys, this is what you need to do. It's showing you. So by me sharing my screen and walking you through the strategy versus me just talking about it has 10 more times the actionable results than it would if I just told you. So this is showing content, showing the processes, showing the successes, showing the strategy, the frameworks. So when I'm thinking of content creation, it falls under these buckets. And hopefully this answers your question versus brief versus in-depth. There's a rate, you can just find the ratio, right? If you feel people don't trust you, make it this like 50% of your content. If people don't know you, make this 50% of your content. If people, again, are like, I don't really know who you are, make this 50% of your content. There's no right or wrong way. It's just a ratio, right? So figure out the ratio of, and you can do it evenly. You can do 2, 2, 2, right? That's 6 posts a week, right? Or like 2, 3, 2, whatever, right? There's no right or wrong answer. But the quickest path to get someone who doesn't know you, a stranger, unknown to client, is content that builds who know, like, and trust. And this is the 3 types of content buckets. You think of it, they're not pillars, because pillars are like the topics you talk about. These are like the buckets, the ways I'm thinking of it. So actionable, brief, authority, long, showing people processes, and personal stories, a little bit in between brief and short.
I just to jump on that personal brand piece, and cautious your time as well, Kyler, but there's something I learned yesterday which really has stayed with me. If you draw a cross, and I would usually do this with my iPad, but my laptop's given up on me, draw a cross. On the top, write down North Star. And these are 4 things that we should share in our personal story. North Star. If you think of Elon Musk, what's his North Star? Moving people to the moon. If you think of Gary Vee, what's his North Star? He wants to buy the jets. some of these big brands, they all have a North Star and they share their why, their North Star. Below their North Star, you write kryptonite. Like for me, out of my Instagram stories, I'm constantly, not constantly, but I'm showing the pot of peanut butter and the spoon in it that I have by my desk most days. That is like a massive kryptonite. And I share that part of me, like peanut butter is a massive kryptonite for me, but it just makes people connect with me as a person, right? I have a genuine problem with peanut butter. I eat like 5,000 calories of peanut butter a week on its own. It's wild. On the left, you want to write quirks. These are like your quirks, the quirky things about you that, you know, are unique to you, the way that you put your shoes on in the morning, whatever it is. And on the right, it's your passions. And I feel like this is just a great way of pulling out your essence and your like uniqueness. So you've got North Star. What is your why? Like share that one thing that you're, for me, I want to build a school in Africa. Like that's a big North Star. And I haven't been sharing about that until I had learned this thing yesterday. Kryptonite, quirks and passions. And
I love that.
Let people know that. Let people know there's four. Dan Martell, that's who I learned it from.
I love that. No, I didn't hear that. That's a great, I wrote that down too. That's awesome.